Hello everybody, this is Lewis here. Wanted to do a deck tech review of a new Solaris build that I called Solaris Fists of Fire. This deck is made with the Vanquishers Kickstarter cards as well as new Monster Bash cards in it and anniversary drop cards as well. So what I have up here is TTS. This TTS may look a little different than some of you have seen. This is actually the Vanquishers Testing Battlegrounds mod. It's meant for playtesters to review new cards and new game mechanics, and we'll just be using this small section here. So this deck, the hero is Solaris, and it's actually the new Solaris from the Monster Bash. Solaris is a hero that was in the Kickstarter. Actually, has been around since before Kickstarter, when there was things like sample or test decks out pre-Kickstarter. There was a Veil and Solaris deck. So Solaris is definitely an OG in the game. And in the new Monster Bash series, he came out with new abilities and a new art drawn by Zip. Zip draws, amazing artist. He does comic book style art, as you can see here. And this is his V trigger side. If we flip him over, you will see him in his non V trigger side, equally as nice. These cards are to be shipped out the week of Halloween. I have not received them yet, but I can only imagine seeing this card in foil would be pretty crazy. So let's review Solaris and what Solaris does. Solaris has an EX ability. So heroes in the Monster Bash set have an EX ability, something kind of new to the game. And what it is it's an ability that you can trigger once per X amount of turns. And if you see here, the EX um, turn amount is 4. You'll see an EX icon in yellow, looks like a yellow card, and underneath it is the number 4. So you can trigger this ability once every 4 turns. Now, if you flip him over to his non-V trigger side, you'll see that you can use the EX ability even if he's not V triggered. So while early on in the game, if you're able to get a weapon out, you could most certainly use this even before he V triggers. What does the EX ability do? It reads, before targeting, choose a weapon and add 2 solar damage. So basically, this is a 2 solar damage buff, one-time buff, once every 4 turn, and it's really powerful, especially against glacier types that basically doubles that damage amount on solar. So to the left, we'll review the first of 2 hero weapons, and this one is the Ardent. The Ardent is a hero weapon that he's had since the beginning. It's his signature SMG weapon. It has Solar Strike, which deal 1 solar damage to any burnt enemy. Heat signature, which reads, rolling an even number automatically burns the enemy, hit or miss. And the Fatal Blaze, after rolling a 5 or a 6, if the enemy is burned, all shield damage becomes kinetic damage. It has a base targeting of 8. It does 3 shield damage and 4 kinetic. It is a unique card, so you can only have one of in your deck. The Ardent is unique to Solaris. He's the only one that can use it. The other hero weapon, this is a new hero weapon that came out with the Monster Bash. The art looks wicked. It's Solar Knuckles. It is a unique hero card, and it is unique to Solaris. He's the only one that can use it. It has a base targeting of 6, does 2 shield damage and 2 kinetic, but it has 3 very great abilities, especially if you can synergize with them. So Fire Torment reads, Enemies can now be burned up to a max of 8 stacks, which is great. Solar Flux add 1 targeting and 2 solar damage for each solar mod attached to an equipped weapon. And Blazing Burst, refer to the ability die and deal that number as solar damage. Refer to targeting die and deal that number as kinetic damage. So your ability die is traditionally your red die, and basically what it's going to do is after you roll, if you do land the hit, in addition to your base 2 shield damage and base 2 kinetic, you get to deal extra solar damage based on the number on the ability die and extra kinetic damage based on the other die. So it could be a quite of a big hit. And I've actually done a lot of damage with this card. So I am running a Solar Converse, which is another unique card. It is also unique to Solaris. He's the only one that can use it. It is a support card. It's a one-time use, so you do discard it after you play it. But it reads, trigger all enemy traps and apply the activation cost as solar damage. Add 1 shield point for each solar damage you deal. Max burn the enemy. So if you synergize that with your Solar Knuckles, you can max burn the enemy up to burn stack of 8. Um, and this is good against probably other assassins, or if you're playing a Conjurer or a Sentinel, they do have some traps. But basically, you're going to force them to trigger the traps, and what you're doing is basically taking the activation cost of those traps, and it does stack. If there's multiple traps, let's say your opponent has 2 trap cards, maybe a grenade, and another 3 cost, you're dealing 6 total solar damage to them. It also adds 1 shield point for each solar damage you deal. Okay, now let's move on. We're going to look at a couple of utility cards. I do have Deactivate. I run 2 of these in the deck. It is specific to assassins, and what it is you play this to discard an enemy trap and draw a card. It's good to kind of bypass some tricks from your opponents. I also run um, Regressive Glitch, which is a neutral support card, and it reads choose an enemy support or rift card and discard it. So I run 2 of those. Those are my utility cards. I do have a buff card in the way of Lightning Reflexes. It's a traditional assassin card, and it ups the defense by 1, which Solaris needs because at 13 defense, it's not horrible, but it's still pretty modest. I also run a 4 of Enhanced Targeting, which is specific to assassins, and basically it adds 2 targeting and 1 kinetic damage to all of my equipped weapons, which, when paired with the gauntlets that I'm running on this deck, it's really good. You'll see why here shortly. Um, Another utility card I am running is a Prime Energy. It is a Rift card. Once per turn, I can draw an extra card, myself and allies. Solar Grenade, we can use these as direct damage or as to lay a trap. If you've been around the game, you kind of know what these do, but it's basically it's 2 shield, 3 kinetic. You can roll. If you roll 4 or 6, you get an extra damage. If it's played as a trap card and it's procced, it deals 2 solar damage, and then any damage with this grenade burns the enemy's 2 stacks. I run Saras. I run 2 of these. Um, it's a good mid-tier. It's a mid-tier armor, but I think it's plenty for what we're trying to do here. Infinite Velocity, running 4 of those. This is one of our 2 non-hero weapons we're running. This is a very great card. So the reason I'm running this card, along with the next one we'll discuss, is Fusion Blade, is both of these gauntlets allow you to hit multiple times. So Full Velocity, which is the V-trigger ability, allows us to target the enemy until you miss, reducing 1 targeting and adding 1 kinetic damage after every stack. So basically, You target. If you successfully target, it gets a little less targeting. And then it hits a little harder, and you can keep hitting over and over. It does have grapple. Um, After rolling an odd number on my ability die, I choose a card from an enemy's hand and shuffle it into their deck. So basically, you're choosing a card at random from, well, not necessarily random. It says choose. So your enemy, shows the backs of their cards, and you pick one out, and then they have to shuffle that into their deck. At two targeting, if the enemy has a hand-to-hand or melee weapon, so this is good against, let's say, cyber builds or other, maybe even another Solaris or a Kaligo. Fusion Blade has it's a similar gauntlet in that it has a Reaping Havoc ability. The Reaping Havoc ability, uh, it does reduce two targeting. But this Gauntlet has stronger base stats than the Infinite Velocity. Infinite Velocity has 6 targeting and 1 kinetic damage, while Fusion Blade has 6 targeting, but it has 3 kinetic damage. Now, you can, with Energy Charge, add 1 kinetic damage and add 1 targeting for each energy mod attached. And Shattering Guard, after rolling 4 through a 6, remove 4 of durability from enemy armor. We're running 2 mods for these gauntlets. The first one is Solar Energy mod. Why? Because we are solar. So this adds 2 solar damage when attached, and all shield damage with this weapon is now solar energy damage. Attaches to weapons below, tells you which ones, basically every weapon. Now the Sentinel Ring is specific to gauntlets and bindings. It adds 1 shield damage and 2 targeting and attaches to, again, gauntlets and bindings. Now, a crazy combo, the reason I chose these two, and you can certainly use other ones like Dom Link, they synergize well together. So Sentinel Ring adds 1 shield damage, but if you also have an solar energy mod, it states that any shield damage becomes solar damage. So the +1 shield damage here means that with the solar mod, now you're dealing 3 solar damage. And then you're going to start seeing the synergies when you're attaching it to the Infinite Velocity and the Fusion Blades. We'll review that shortly. We do run 9 energy cartridges, which is required for, to activate the gauntlets. And I also have a new card here, SPE cartridge. Now this does basically what it does is swaps 1 kinetic damage for a shield damage. So it's -1 kinetic and add 1 shield. But what it does is provides 3 energy, um, basically 3 energy cartridges worth of energy. So one of these SP cartridge is enough to activate any of these gauntlets. So let's kind of see how some of the synergy works. If we move up here, what we're trying to do is, honestly, you only really need one of the 2 gauntlets out. Chances are I've played a few matches, and I don't think I've yet to be able to play both of the gauntlets out in one round. But you could. Uh, Ultimately, you want to get one of the hero weapons. It'd be great if you go with the Solar Knuckles. Um, but what you can do is when you play a Fusion Blade, and I'll move this one off to the side, and I'll show you what the synergy does here. So what the Fusion Blade does is whenever you add the Solar mod, which we have here, it says with the energy charge, add 1 kinetic damage and 1 targeting. So let's start plugging this in. I got a base 6 targeting, and it gets +1 targeting because of the Solar mod. So it goes to 7. But if you also attach Sentinel Rings, it gets a +2 targeting. So you got a base targeting of 9. Now, it would get traditionally 1 shield damage, but all shield damage becomes solar. So we'll use our shield icon just to understand how much solar we're dealing. We're dealing 3 solar every turn. We have a base of 3 kinetic damage here, 3. But if we have the solar mod, which we do attached, because of energy charge, we get an extra kinetic. So we have a gauntlet that if you do get both mods on, has a base targeting of 9, which is solid. It has 3 solar damage and 4 kinetic. So that's 7 damage in one swing. But if you're V triggered, you can reduce your targeting by 2, which is still a solid 7, and you can potentially hit for another 7. So you can hit for realistically, consistently 14 damage off of one gauntlet. And even though you would go down to 5 targeting, which there are weapons out there that do have 5 targeting. And if you're going off, if you're going against heroes that let's say are not Kaligo, like a Veil or Saigon, and their defense is not that great, you could potentially hit them a third time, especially if you roll pretty good. Which would be 21 damage with just one weapon, and that's pretty sick. If you're going up against Veil, you hit them twice, you're dealing double solar damage. You can potentially, wipe him out in one good solid turn. Now, pair that with Solar Knuckles. Um, Again, it could be you know, we're talking big damage in one turn. Now, if you do get infinite velocity out, okay, that weapon will also allow you to hit multiple times in one turn. Now, here's better synergy. So let's say you are running just the one gauntlet, and you're focusing on getting the energy mods in, getting it modified, and spending a few turns doing that. The EX ability from Solaris, if you time it well, will add 2 more solar damage to the fusion blade. So for one turn, this fusion blade can deal 5 solar damage on top of the 4 kinetic. So you're talking 9 every time that it lands. That's pretty ridiculous. Now, this is where things go nuts. We do have enhanced targeting. What enhanced targeting does is it adds 2 targeting and 1 kinetic damage to all weapons. So we're talking about a base 9 being buffed for 2 turns to 11, and it adds 1 more kinetic. Guys, we're talking about a fusion blade with 11 targeting, dealing 10 hits of damage, 5 solar, 5 kinetic every time it swings, and it can swing multiple times. So, yeah, Solaris with gauntlets, he's like Mike Tyson. He's there to knock you out in one hit, one round. So, you do have to invest a little bit of time into getting one of your gauntlets out and really wanting to try to get both of the mods on it. And you're lucky, if you do get the solar knuckles or even the ardent out. But even without that, if we're talking about one fusion blade modded up, throwing down enhanced targeting, which you have 4 of your deck, so you can consistently get it. Um, we're talking 10, 20, 30, possible 30 damage in one turn. And if it's a glacier class hero such as Veil or Aurora, it's not going to look good for them. So basically, that's the synergy. That's the new deck using new cards for Solaris. I think Solaris definitely got a strong buff in the Monster Bash series. Let me know what you think in the comments if you would run Solaris and if you would run this particular build. And as always, please like, subscribe, and definitely share so other people can learn how to play the game as well. Too Fluid out.